today is the day. We have opened up enrollment for the summer Renegade Accelerator Program. This opportunity is for female leaders, executives, founders who are looking to 10x the way they think and execute. The program is equal parts education, collaboration, and accountability. It's all virtual, but it's live, interactive, real-time learning. And the curriculum includes everything from building your personal brand online to public speaking, podcasting, publishing, productizing your intellectual property, and even marketing partnerships. We also focus on wealth creation. My goal is to help you create a healthier relationship with both time and money. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com and you will find a video of Renegade grads who explain their experience, share what they've learned, and share their actual results. All of the information is on renegadeaccelerator.com. And we are in the early decision deadline timeframe. So tuition is discounted for a short period of time. We do have limited seats, and there has been a wait list. So head to renegadeaccelerator.com and fill out the application if you're interested. And if you're not sure, just sign up for our emails. We will take you through a process that helps you determine whether or not the program is the right fit for you. The constant feedback I'm hearing from Renegade grads is that they join the program for the curriculum, for the education, for the mindset shift, for the tangible, tactical results. However, they don't realize what they're also getting is a lifelong community that is a mosaic of like-minded, like-hearted women who just continue to accelerate each other way beyond the program. And that is because when you graduate from the Renegade Accelerator, you're invited into the Renegade Collective. This is our alumni network, and we have ongoing programming. We have the ability to connect on a daily basis, network, help each other, and it's pure magic. So if this sounds interesting to you, head to renegadeaccelerator.com. And you can always reach out to me as well if you have questions. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. We do have limited seats, so definitely act soon if you want to take advantage of the early decision deadline. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com.
Over the course of my career, I've continued to try to pivot and reassess, like, how is the best way to create impact? And what does that look like? And how do you actually address the challenges that people are facing rather than just continuing to put Band-Aids on? So many nonprofits do the same work year on year, and it's not actually changing the world if you're continuing to do the same thing over and over.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Just let go.
We have Justine Lucas on the show today. Justine is the executive director of Rihanna's Clara, Lionel Foundation. And she's also a graduate of the Renegade Accelerator. Justine is a term member on the Council of Foreign Relations. And previously to working at the foundation, Justine was the global director of programs for Global Citizen. That's where she oversaw the Global Citizen Festival, events, programs, and strategic partnerships. She was a producer at the Global Citizen Festivals in Central Park and the Global Citizen Earth Day event that was on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. And she's all around an expert in campaign mobilization and strategic partnerships, really developing and leveraging creative campaigns around super complex policy issues. I just love Justine's Why Not Now moment that she shares. And it is an exercise that I know I will think about for the rest of my life. I'm excited for you to hear it and to go through it and really kind of give it some time and space to identify what are the ingredients that make the best days of your life. And so please give this a little attention for yourself and go through the process. What's really cool is that Justine did this 4 years ago, and she started to kind of reverse engineer those ingredients into her days. I can't think of a quicker, better way to really make an impact and really live the life that you want to live. Justine talks about her journey with writing and becoming a writer, what that means, the process, what it looks like. She talks about her interview with Rihanna, the very first time she met her, and some interesting things that took place in that interview and kind of what led up to it. And given that the foundation has received awards and been recognized for how progressive and impactful their work has been, Justine talks a little bit about how and why, what they're doing differently, and how they're kind of recreating a formula that works for today around the big policy issues and challenges that we have. Without further ado, here's Renegade Justine Lucas. Justine, welcome to the Why Not Now show. I'm really excited to have you here. And in the spirit of Why Not Now, let's hop right in as we typically do. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you asked yourself the question, why not now?
Well, thank you, Amy Jo, so much for having me. And thank you for the question. I really, really love the premise of this podcast. As you know, I've been writing a bit, which came out in the writing, the Renegade Accelerator. And I don't exactly know what form it's going to take, but it's been a practice in my life that has been really powerful. And especially during the pandemic. Before jumping on here, I was thinking about a moment of transformation. I thought I'd share an exercise that brought me to a place where I suddenly realized that I wanted to write. So one day, about 4 years ago, my friend Freddie and I met up for a spontaneous whiteboard session, and he took me through a series of exploratory exercises. And just to take a step back, Freddie is an artist, an actor. He comes from a world that is very different from my world in philanthropy. And I think that doing these kinds of exercises is really helpful when you find someone that challenges you, that has different perspective. But the first thing he asked me to do was think of the 10 best days of my life, which is such a beautiful question if you really think about it. At first, your mind goes towards milestones like birthdays, graduations, galas, wedding days, all those things. But then if you really sit with the question, it's really surprising to think about which days have been your best days. And the follow-up question to that was really boiling down what were the ingredients that made those days magical. And for me, things that came out were things like nature, people. I get my energy from people, whether it's family, friends, meeting new people, adventures. I love to travel and explore. Love, whether it's being in love, falling in love, feeling loved. These were things that were coming up for me as kind of the key ingredients to what makes for a best day. And then his next exercise was he drew a triangle, and its three sides were health, work, and relationships. Health being at the bottom, the base, obviously. If you don't have health, you don't have anything. And he asked me to assess how things were going in each of those areas. What were my priorities? What was missing? How do the ingredients of my best days show up in those aspects of my life? And the craziest revelation that I had was around the health aspect. I'm someone that exercises a lot, and I do prioritize my health. And I know that health includes other things like mental health, but I hadn't realized that mental exercise was a piece of it. And for me, sitting in that moment, I realized that I was lacking a creative outlet, which I used to draw, I used to paint, I used to play piano. I had done creative things over the course of my life, but I just didn't have anything going on in that space. And it suddenly dawned on me that writing was an outlet it was something that I'd always wanted to do. And it was a missing piece of my life. And I don't know exactly where I'm going with the writing, but over the past 4 years, I've become a writer. And that's really exciting. And it's such a beautiful compliment to, the other parts of my life, the work that I do each and every day. And it's been a really beautiful journey to be on. And just that like getting to that why not now moment, I thought back on how I've had perspective in my life. And this is kind of morbid, but I've kind of always asked myself the question, if I died tomorrow, would I be happy with the life I've lived, with the life I'm living? And sometimes that question comes up when you're trapped in an MRI machine or you're in a moment where it's kind of forced, but other times it just hits me in a moment of pause and I think about it. And I think it's pushed me, like having that perspective has pushed me to be spontaneous, to take a lot of chances, to travel a lot. But I really love Freddie's approach of being proactive and asking, how do I live more of my best days? And how do I strive for more balance? And being forward facing with those questions. So in the end, I've realized that to create a life with more best days, for me, I have to write, but I have to also keep frequently asking myself, why not now? And I have been doing that ever since. And thus, Amy Jo, I think this is such a great premise for a podcast.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for sharing. And this is such a awesome, juicy formula for taking stock and kind of starting to kind of shake up that, snow globe, right? Just let's rustle some things up and see what lands and see what feels good. But so the 3 steps were, first, what are identify the best 10 days of your life. And then second, what were the ingredients that made those days magical? Third, kind of how do you rank and prioritize your health, work, and relationships? Is that correct? So with number 1, when you started doing that 4 years ago, the 10 days, were things popping into mind quickly? And was it like a very clear, quick list, or did you struggle a little bit?
I struggled. I sat with it for a bit. A couple of days automatically popped into my mind, but I feel like I've taken a little bit of a road less traveled in that I don't have a lot of the super traditional major milestones, but it would be something like a day from a vacation from 6 or 7 years ago. And the one day that popped into my mind right away was I was in Zanzibar with my brother, and we were just on an adventure. We were in nature. We met a crew of wonderful humans. There was dancing. It was just like a day that felt like it was just, I felt like I was living my best life in that one day. Like so much was packed into that day. It was a magical day.
I can imagine as you start thinking through this list and you start to find the connective tissue, like it sounds like travel, adventure, you can then reverse engineer some of that, right? It's like, okay, note to self. I really thrive when I am doing XYZ. It's so interesting. For people listening right now, everybody's thinking about this. And a few things pop into mind and I'm already like, is that though? And it's just funny how the movie trailer of your life starts to go. And that whole feeling is really experiential to begin with. So thank you for sharing that and that exercise. I hope a lot of people are thinking that through right now. So then what? So you've realized writing is a part of that best day. And what has your practice been like? Because it is not an easy thing to do necessarily, to just really be committed to writing, right? I consider, if you can sit down and write, even when you don't want to, that's when those muscles start to really build, I feel like, because then you can kind of find the flow. But yeah, what does the practice look like and how's it evolved, especially with last year?
Yeah, it's such a difficult practice. I have not found my groove yet. I'm not somebody that sets aside an hour every day. I have found that larger chunks of time, like taking half a day on a weekend or writing really early in the morning, works for me. But as a practice in general, it's really wonderful, even if it doesn't become anything, just the reflection of sitting in these stories and processing them. I think it's really cathartic. So I've really enjoyed just the actual practice of creating that space and that silence to just put the words on the page, no matter what becomes of it.
You're so right in that it's such a good exercise of the mind. It's amazing. And it's kind of, when you get into like a groove and you feel like you're on and then sometimes it's just like, none of this is working. It takes discipline, I guess. So what a cool thing to develop that will help you be more disciplined probably in other areas of your life. So that in itself is one thing when people say, I've got a book in me. And sure, absolutely. Everybody has a story that's worthy of being told and heard. But the big delta is most people aren't really kind of willing to really kind of sit down and get it out. And do you write on paper? Do you type? Like, what's your best medium?
I know that you're supposed to write on paper, but my handwriting is super illegible. So I type. And I also have an accountability crew, basically. I'm in like a writing, it's maybe like a cohort, I'd say. There's 6 of us that are all pretty serious about it. And it's every week we meet and we have assignments and we read each other's work. And that accountability has been so helpful.
That's huge. I've heard the same thing for music and musicians just when they're writing, like, and practicing every day, Okay, so the transformation, like, what are some of the biggest takeaways you've noticed as a result of this Why Not Now, of writing more?
Yeah, I think it's been realizing, and I think this is relatable to anyone, is like, I think things get out of balance sometimes where you're working too hard, you're prioritizing something more than other things, and having a practice like writing or anything creative really causes you to pause. So I think that has been so helpful for me to really continue to assess and create that balance in my life. But also the transformation itself of thinking about how can I keep living my best days has been powerful as an exercise that I can apply to things like work. So for me, how can I keep engaging in the work that we do in a way that creates the most impact in the world so that I feel fulfilled each and every day? So just having that lens to put towards what I'm doing each and every day has been really helpful.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. I'm hopping in here to tell you about a new discovery of mine. I'm in love, and let me tell you, I've fallen hard. We all like our caffeine in the morning. I look forward to that first, second, and fifth cup of coffee in the morning, but now I exclusively drink Super Coffee. I'm such a fan that I actually invested in the company, the team, and their culture. The love for what I do every day makes me jump out of bed in the morning, but Super Coffee truly fuels that fire. It's fueled with positive energy, from the ingredients they use to their brand promise. Super Coffee removes the negatives like sugar and adds the positives like MCT oil and protein so that you can maximize your day. I have an embarrassing secret. I used to be addicted to diet soda. I'd roll out of bed and pop open a can before my eyes were even fully open. I had never been a huge coffee drinker, but when I gave up diet soda on July 12th, 2015, yes, the moment deserves an anniversary. It was a big deal. I needed another caffeine source at that point. For me, that meant coffee with lots of artificial sweeteners, with crazy ingredients I can't pronounce that made me crash by 2 p.m. or so. Well, not anymore. Super Coffee is different. As I mentioned, there's no added sugar, and some of the flavors I love have 10 grams of plant protein. Now, I'm not a big meat eater, so this really helps, and they've just added a few new flavors to their plant-based offering, like French vanilla and sweet cream. They only use ingredients that are great tasting, great for you, and sustain you for the long haul. Nothing shady, only positives. The taste is delish, I can tell you. Take it from someone who needs that extra flavor to enjoy the taste of coffee. And Super Coffee also comes in ground coffee, Keurig pods, creamers, and more on their website, drinksupercoffee.com. One of the things my team and I love most is that on drinksupercoffee.com, you can shop Super Coffee's wide variety of products based on your dietary needs, including gluten-free, plant-based, Whole30, keto, or even vegan, right there on their website. There's something for everyone. While you're on the site, go ahead and stock up because Super Coffee is hooking up Why Not Now listeners with a 25% discount. Head to supercoffee.com and use the code Why Not Now for your 25% discount on all products. drinksupercoffee.com is the only place this offer is available, and your discount works again for all products. Just use Why Not Now as your code, all one word. There are no restrictions. I'm an investor in Super Coffee because the founders truly do walk the talk. Yes, their coffee provides positive energy, but so does their company culture. Their founders are three brothers who share a work hard and be nice to people mentality, and they spread that throughout their culture at Super Coffee. They know the importance of having diverse perspectives at the leadership level. And you know, I'm a fan of elevating women in leadership. In fact, one of my Renegade Accelerator grads, Jamie Christ, is one of those women. So once that positive energy arrives on your doorstep, hit me up on social at Amy Jo Martin and show me what flavors and products you went with. And bonus points if you try one of their seasonal blends. The company is growing quickly, and you'll probably start noticing Super Coffee in your local Walmart, Target, or Costco. They are now in over 30,000 retailers nationwide. To take advantage of your exclusive 25% discount, head to drinksupercoffee.com and enter Why Not Now at checkout. That's Why Not Now, all one word. drinksupercoffee.com is the only place this offer is available, and your discount works for all products, no restrictions. I find it so interesting because you're doing this work that's, from the outside looking in, first of all, it's extremely important work. It is making an impact. And I've spoken with other people who are doing, in a similar line of work, but they don't necessarily feel as fulfilled at the end of the day. And so one doesn't always equal the other, right? But sure, I'm imagining there's ways to get that into alignment and have it be really potent. But that's kind of would you say that's a false sense of understanding? Like just because you work for this incredible foundation, and prior to that, global citizen, and the people you're around, would you say in general are pretty happy people, or just kind of your normal population mix?
I think that there is something special about working in the impact space, like the idea that you go to work, quote unquote, each and every day, and like you're actually making some sort of effort to make the world a little bit better. Mm-hmm. I think there's something special about that. And I realized early on that after working so many jobs of varying capacities. I worked the night shift at a book factory. I've, done the, all the admin work, the rock climbing gym. I've worked so many different kinds of jobs. And I just got to a point in college where I realized that working in nonprofit was going to give me so much in my day to day. And you're spending so many hours of each day in your work. So having that piece does make sense. I will say, I have gone on a journey, an evolution really of understanding what impact means. And I think I've been always quite critical of the space. Like my master's degree, I wrote about the politicalization of humanitarian aid. And I just think there are some dark sides to this work. And over the course of my career, I've continued to try to pivot and reassess, like, how is the best way to create impact, and what does that look like, and how do you actually address the challenges that people are facing rather than just continuing to put band-aids on? Or so many nonprofits do the same work year on year, and it's not actually changing the world if you're continuing to do the same thing over and over. So I've become somebody that's really a big proponent of systems change thinking and thinking about how we're actually solving the challenges rather than just putting these band-aids on them.
That's critical. I mean, and the innovation with so much changing in the world and with private sector and government and nonprofit, and it just seems like so much room for innovation and opportunity. But it's got to be hard sometimes to see sides where you probably want change fairly quickly, but nothing seems to move that quickly sometimes. With your career and this most recent role, I mean, it's a big job. You are responsible for a lot of things. I imagine that was a pretty big, why not now, shifting from global citizen, which has such an incredible reputation to begin with, such a big platform. You produced like the biggest events in the world, and shifting and becoming more of, an advocate for impact under kind of one human. So that's a big difference. Can you talk a little bit about that change and just what came prior, but also how that looked?
Yeah, it was a journey for sure. And, I had the great opportunity to be involved in Global Citizen from the early days here in the US, and to go on a journey of, a small group of people imagining how can there be great strides taken towards ending extreme poverty, and how can that message and that platform be brought to the United States. It was so wonderful to be a part of that thinking and of that growth. And the organization grew so fast over the 5 years I was there. I started working there in 2011, and that journey connected me to such wonderful people. And it was such an amazing experience. And yes, producing large scale events, there's a lot of excitement that comes with that, and a lot of energy. And I think we're all massive music fans. So like the opportunity to engage in that space was powerful, and the impact of the work was powerful. But, I think I got to a point where it felt like, one, I was working just too many hours each week. And I wanted to make sure that I was prioritizing all the aspects of my life that, I valued. And so I went on a journey. I was working with an executive coach of just getting to a place of realizing that I was open to new opportunities in itself was really a why not now moment for me. It was a lot when you're going event to event. The train kind of leaves the station and you start working on the next one. Mm-hmm. And I got into this work to not do event production, to do impact work. So, it was really helpful to have a third party to talk to really realize that I was ready for a change and open to new opportunities. And because I was working on all these events and running talent for Global Citizen, I, had the great opportunity to meet a lot of managers and agents and the music industry. And that did open a door to this opportunity coming towards me in a way that I just happened to be ready for. I think that is a big transformation, getting to a place where you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into an organization that you really believe in, but then getting to a point where you realize you're ready for something new. That was a big moment, a big transformation for me. And then, when I had the chance to meet our founder, yes, we all know Rihanna is a force of nature, and she is so incredibly talented. She's a brilliant businesswoman. There's so much about her that's amazing, but, I didn't know much about her philanthropic perspective. And to sit down with her in my interview and just hear how she had such massive ambitions for what Clara Lionel Foundation was going to be, it was inspiring to me. And I also saw a new challenge that I was really, really excited to take on. So that conversation solidified me wanting to take this next step.
Very cool. Just the dynamic and the energy. She is a force, but you had a lot to bring to the table too. Were you intimidated? or how did that feel? Or was it just like, no, I'm just going to show up and talk about what I'm passionate about? It's not every day that people are in those interviews.
Yeah, I was definitely intimidated. I think if you read any interview that has been done with her, the journalist often starts off the article by saying, like, what do you wear to meet with Rihanna? Like, what, like, and the intimidation of like that meeting has been written about many times. So I remember walking in feeling, yes, what do I wear? One, grew up in rural Illinois, and although I've lived in New York City a long time, and I appreciate fashion, I wouldn't say that I'm the most like fashion forward or know all the brands. I've definitely come a long way in this role, but yeah, I'm walking in there wearing Zara and J. Crew, and not, but that was like where I was at financially, but also like that's kind of what I knew. And so I was intimidated about the what to wear, but I felt also that I wasn't 100% sure that I wanted the role. So there was a little bit of freedom that came with that. Like I was walking into it hoping for a conversation, hoping to explore partnership, because I wanted my next step to have great impact. And I wanted to like have that kind of partnership with someone that felt that the ambition that I held inside of myself was the same ambition that they felt for change in the world. And that alignment just happened to be there. So it was a powerful moment for me to realize that it was a good fit.
That's a great story. And I can imagine what happened from then on. Like, what are you most proud of? The foundation is winning awards for the amount of impact that you're making and the progressive nature. And, when you think back and look at the last, has it been 4 years now? What comes to mind as the biggest moments?
Yeah, I think there's two things that stand out for me. I would say one is all the work that our team did in 2020 around the pandemic and racial justice. So we, have the expertise of mobilizing funds quickly, of vetting grantees. We've done emergency response to natural disasters in the Caribbean for a long time. And so we were able to make this big strategic pivot and figure out where we could have the most impact, create these grant rounds that attracted a lot of high net worth individuals, foundations. Last year, we mobilized $47 million in grant giving. So it was, for us, it was a giant leap. Our team of, essentially, there's 3 of us. We're a really small team. My coworkers, Fiona and Ashley, are absolutely incredible. And we have an amazing board of directors that was helping mobilize funds, making strategic introductions. So we're a small but like mighty team. So our ability to sort of leverage that much funding, I think, was really powerful. And then the other thing I would say is the systems change work we're doing around climate resilience in the Caribbean. So that was an amazing evolution for us as an organization to go from emergency response to natural disasters, which every year there's more and more disasters. They're getting worse and worse. And after the 2017 hurricane season, it just felt like there wasn't enough we could do in that emergency response phase. And we saw all of the cracks that happen with that. So many people rush in, and we as donors, we all feel this energy to give immediately after a disaster. But then everyone walks away and these communities are left picking up the pieces for years. And we were seeing that time and time again. We'd go visit a reproductive health clinic in Puerto Rico and see that they're just, 2 years later, they're just starting to open their doors again. So just seeing how so many communities were left behind, so many demographics weren't prioritized. Women make up very little of the giving that happens. Like initiatives focused on women make up very little of the giving that happens after disaster. And so we felt like there was a better role we could play. So we did a bunch of research. We worked with various universities to assess how can we as a moderately sized NGO play a role in climate resilience in the Caribbean? How can our founder and her powerful voice and her ambassadorship for Barbados, how can that be leveraged to move forward this issue, which it seems like, and I don't know if you feel like this, when people are talking about climate change, they're often talking about mitigation. They're not necessarily talking about the impact on people. And our founder and our work has always been centered on the impact on people. So for us to lead a project, an initiative over the next 5 years that is focused on helping support communities to be resilient to the disasters to come, it's really innovative. Not a lot of folks are doing work in that space. And we're really taking a pan-Caribbean approach with the goal of how can the Caribbean become a climate resilient zone that is a model for other places in the world.
I was just going to ask, like, do you find that this proof of concept and case study that you're in the middle of is being recognized and watched closely to try and be replicated and continued?
I think it's being recognized and watched in that I'm still fundraising for it, but we're attracting really powerful funders. So a lot of the really reputable foundations are getting behind the work. And so I think that the more pilots we do across more countries, I think that work is powerful because it provides the opportunity for scale, for advocacy, to crowd in more funding into the Caribbean and that space in general. But I think it also lifts up a really necessary narrative of really, I don't like the word intersectionality, but really like how all of these issues are overlapping. So the idea that climate change and its effects are really affecting marginalized communities, women, like the idea that climate health, women and girls issues, they're all intersecting in a way that I think has not been properly recognized in the climate space. And that's something where I think there's a lot of work to be done on narrative and recognition that, especially in a place like the Caribbean where there's a colonial legacy, thinking about the layers of the folks being impacted and the way that climate change is affecting folks living in poverty. It's just a narrative, and it's like a body of work that needs so much more attention. And so I'm hopeful that the Climate Resilience Initiative will help elevate that.
That's cool. I'm sure you're shedding light on angles and topics that are surfacing that don't typically around what we think of as climate change, and how that's going to be great for people to become more aware. And that's a great sign that you're getting some heavy hitting and impactful support. So it's attractive to this cause. I think about the place that you work in and reside in terms of your days, and you see a lot of intensity, I imagine, or at least you're constantly hearing about it. What's one lesson you find yourself learning over and over in this role that you play?
I think that, and maybe it's not just in this role, but I think a lesson that I feel like I've taken from all of my collective experiences is one that we as humans, we're all so alike. No matter where I've traveled to in the globe, where I've lived, everyone has the same wants, desires, frustrations. Humanity shares that. And I wish that, more people had the opportunity to have those kinds of experiences, to go to corners of the globe and realize that, just this idea of thinking that anyone is an other, or othering anyone is just so wrong. And it's just something that I feel like I've seen over and over again. But it's also, a layer of that is people know what's best for them, and to trust the needs and desires and, the strategy that comes from a local level is something that I think that the nonprofit space needs to really acknowledge and respect more. And I think it only comes from that deep understanding of equality of humankind. Like if you're sitting in that understanding and that empathy and that reality, I think then it just seems so backwards for nonprofits to create their idea of how they're going to change the world and go put that upon communities, because communities know best.
Yeah. That localization factor. I mean, until you're boots on the ground, it's hard to wrap our minds around it sometimes, but doesn't it become so clear when you're there? You're like, yeah, how would anyone understand and the solutions to this unless they were here? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What brings you positive energy?
People. Like I get my energy from people, which has made, the pandemic has been really difficult because I'm used to meeting new people, engaging with people all day. Like it gives me so much life. And something I think I've realized over the course of this past year is really just the amount of energy that brings to me. So I'm excited to talk to our team. I'm the kind of person that picks up the phone and calls family and friends on a whim because I just love to hear people's voice and how they're doing. And I love my network for just all the value that it brings to my life personally, not just professionally. I've just gained so much from all of the people I've had the chance to cross paths with.
That's the best answer I've heard to that question. It's just like people, full sentence. I love it so much. It's so good. I think so many people can relate to that, but we may not register, the way that you were able to just articulate. So thank you for that. That was great. Brought such a big smile to my face. So as you look, I know you've traveled a little bit lately, right? So you've been able to you can do your work in different areas, which is amazing. Has that been something that you've tried to increase since you went through the 10 best days and realizing that travel was a big component? Like, do you feel like you've really intentionally taken action on that? Why not now?
100%. I traveled a lot for work before the pandemic. And a lot of it's sort of the traditional spaces like LA, San Francisco, London. But sometimes when you travel a lot for work, you almost forget like how much joy it brings you when you're doing it for fun. Mm-hmm. So I definitely prioritize doing trips that are specifically just for me and for my vacation time. So a few years ago, I did Patagonia. I did a big 15-day hiking trip. And I tried to think of every couple of years, think of something that pushes me, that takes me to a new corner of the world. And so I do prioritize that. And then during the pandemic, I did a trip to VA Case, Puerto Rico. I have spent lots of time in the Caribbean, but I had never been there. And the idea of going to this island was something that I felt would bring me so much of that adventure and exploration, which does bring me so much joy. And it was pretty cold and it was the end of the winter in New York. And so I took a chance and went on a whim. Really, I found this really fun treehouse Airbnb and just without figuring out how to get there. And it was just a really spontaneous trip, but I went and placed myself in VA Case for a month and it was magical. And it is an island I couldn't more highly recommend if you're somebody that likes to explore. There's a giant wildlife refuge and there's lots of abandoned buildings and cool mural art and I don't know, just wonderful people. So I highly recommend going there.
And the photos and video and what I was able to see through the eyes of your camera looked magical. I could feel the energy and your desire to want to connect and understand that local side. It sounded like you were just put yourself in these situations where all you wanted to do was just kind of integrate and meet people and learn, and which is so cool.
Yeah. I also feel like you can't go somewhere without getting to know some of the people that make up that culture. And, because we do so much work in the Caribbean, I have had the chance to go to many of these islands and experience many different cultures. But being in VA Case, the first week I had the chance to go meet with the VA Case Conservation Trust, and they're doing such amazing work in terms of mangrove restoration and education. And it's definitely in line with what CLF does. But the reason I wanted to go is that the executive director, we had crossed paths at a conference before, but all I could hear from everyone on the island is he was basically the mayor. He's such a gregarious person and just a wonderful human. And so to go and spend time with Mark was a really wonderful way to kick off the trip. So yeah, I do seek out those opportunities to engage.
That's amazing. And for everyone listening who is thought about writing down the 10 best days of your life and then knowing Justine's story, where you did that 4 years ago, and then you went and recreated situations where you can have those best days, like how inspiring is that? Like how motivating is that? Because you do feel a sense of control in a way of your best days. Like if we can create more of those, we're pretty good to go, right? So that's just, it's really encouraging.
But also knowing the ingredients too. Like I think that lens has been so helpful. Like I was thinking about you, Amy Jo, when you just moved, I believe. And I'm sure you're also somebody that gets so much energy from people. And I was thinking about my apartment, and my thing is people, but also nature. And my outdoor space is like as big as my indoor because I need that nature connection. But I also have so many chairs out there because I love hosting people. And so like how that lens applies to the decisions I make in my life is something also I've considered with greater depth.
I love that. That's a great tangible example too, because it's not every day we can go off to, different travel adventures, but you can definitely plan more and make space for more. But those applicable, tangible, okay, get more chairs in this amazing outdoor space. It'll remind me to invite more people and have more outdoor space. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing and for your time, Justine, and the important work that you're doing. It's been an honor to get to know you more. I appreciate you being in the program, being a renegade, but really just for sharing your wisdom and the genuine kind of zest for people and life.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy Jo.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?